So this is 1992. It's before the internet and it's before DVDs came on the scene. So we were delivering VHS tapes to people's houses who phoned us because of a paper catalog that we mailed to them. We thought it was a brilliant idea. It was just, I guess it wasn't so much ahead of its time as ahead of the technology that was available for it. So lasted about 6 months, lost a lot of my friends over it and about $100,000, but in the scheme of things, it wasn't that bad. The next one is where it got interesting. We didn't know marketing, and this whole thing came down to marketing. So, in terms of a lesson that you can broadly take away for other businesses, it's fill in the gaps in your knowledge in your management team, and don't trust a consultant. Like, we had somebody look at our business plan and look at it and say, yeah, this looks fine, without noticing that one of the lines in our business plan said that we were going to get a 50% response rate to our direct mail advertising, which was ridiculous. I mean, the typical is 1.5%. We actually got a 10% return because we didn't know that that was impossible. But it was still too low, and we ended up blowing our entire marketing budget in the first month.
After the first business failure, Sanjay was still full of energy and enthusiasm. A small setback wasn't going to keep him down. He jumped back into the entrepreneurial game. The second venture was devastating, and the cost excruciatingly painful.
So the dollar figure at the end was $500,000 of bankruptcy and a divorce. And the humility, the lesson that really came out of it was realizing that I couldn't do it all on my own. And that, frankly, I couldn't be trusted to run a company. And it took another 10 years before I got confident enough to even try. And even then, it was with a lot of support around me.
While most entrepreneurs say they never give up on their dream, and Sanjay is no different, he does admit to taking a brief 2-year time out while he regrouped.
Oh, not only did I think about it, I gave up. After the second business failed, I was depressed. I was living in my parents' house again after 20 years out. I had a mountain of debt piled up, and I said, I'm never starting another business again. And I went and got a Fortune 500 sales job, grinned and bared it. I hated large parts of my life back then. But I was making enough money to start paying off some of that debt. But I was determined I was never going to run a company again or do anything entrepreneurial, and that lasted about 2 years. And then it comes back. So nobody quits for good, right? There's always that chance to change your mind.
His friend and soon-to-be partner suggested an idea that would be modeled after Netflix. Only their product would be audiobooks. All Sanjay needed was to leave his Fortune 500 job paying around $300,000 a year and work for $60,000 a year. Sanjay was excited about the thought of getting back in the game.
When my partner, Sean Neville, first suggested the idea to me, I thought it was stupid. Like, who the hell would pay like $20 a month to get DVDs through the mail? It just didn't seem like it made sense. And he said, so I said, it's a dumb idea. And he said, they have 2 million subscribers. I go, oh, that's a great idea. Because his thought was audiobooks are even harder to get than DVDs. They're even more expensive.
Sanjay's juices were pumping, and his senses were engaged to watch and listen for new ideas. And that's when the idea for Fusenet was presented to him.
Fusenet was started when my partner and I were both working for Simply Audiobooks, and he came up with a piece of software that you could use to find and play videos on the internet. He thought it was pretty slick. For him, it was more of a hobby, but he thought he might be able to start a company out of it. I tried to convince the company we both worked for at the time to invest in the business with him. They weren't interested, and part of me was quite happy about that because it meant I could put in the money myself, which I did. And within about 8 months, I ended up quitting as well to join that company full time. And a year after that, we came back and bought Simply Audiobooks, the company that we had both worked for at the outset. So it's been a nice story all around. So we came up with a way of getting high quality video with a very simple interface from a part of the internet called Usenet. It's been around longer than the World Wide Web, and very few people know about it. Hard to use, complex to get all the accounts necessary to use it, and we just put it all into one nice little bundle, charged a low price for it, and it was a huge success.
When we return, Sanjay talks about his Corporation 3.0 and how allowing employees to work on their own projects one day a week is building his portfolio of companies. Stay with us. There's more in business right after the break. Dysfunctional companies and dysfunctional partnerships are too common. Sanjay relives some of his partnership moments.
Two businesses that were where I had rocky partnerships, I realized that, again, real entrepreneurs need a lot of freedom, and I think the people that I was partnered with were true entrepreneurs. They needed to have a final say, and they also had big egos, as did I, and so that just, it clashed. Whereas my partner now doesn't have a big ego, or at least mine's bigger than his. What I learned over that is that it's not, well, actually, the first partner in this case, his name is Mike Guado, a company called Empathics, which is still in business and still very successful. And he and I, after he fired me, stayed good friends, and he taught me something very valuable. He said that just because you disagree with somebody doesn't mean that they're wrong. There's more than one right way to do something. And when I finally internalized that, I realized it made it much easier for me to disagree with people, where I was able to say, this, just because you disagree with me doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make me a bad person, but since I'm the one in charge, we're going to do it my way. But the fact that I didn't treat them as if they'd lost a battle, then I think improved the quality of my leadership and decision making.
Along with being a better partner came the idea of being a different employer. How would your company function if you were to say, from now on, all staff will have Fridays to work on whatever non-company related project you want? Sanjay did.
There's two elements to how we treat employees that are a little bit different. And a key part, there's a few companies that give people one day a week to work on something. Google is certainly one, 3M is another. But what we do that's different is we let them own the intellectual property. So when somebody comes to us and says, I want to work on X, and we say, okay, and we say, okay, a lot, that means we can't work on X anymore because that would be competing with them. If they get it to a certain point and we think, wow, this looks like it has real potential, we have to buy it from them, or we have to license it or invest in their company in order to proceed from there. Well, the idea was that we wanted a place that was different. So if you're in your normal day-to-day grind, a place you could go and let your mind wander a little bit, or just push you to think a slightly different way. In terms of decoration, it certainly accomplished its task of being different. And it's a place, because of the style of the furniture, everybody loves sitting in there for brainstorming, and we have our managers' meetings in there. We just create a different space.
Being so innovative, you would think that Sanjay had leadership nailed down, but he still has his moments of insecurity.
Constant fear that I'm not a good leader. Right? Andy Grove at Intel said, paranoia is the one necessary quality to be a great leader, and I'm definitely paranoid. Because of the violent and sudden nature of the failures in my past, I'm just constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering if I'm doing the right things, constantly looking for measurements, like hard data that says, no, things are going okay, our profit numbers are okay, our employee satisfaction numbers are okay, that some of the new innovative policies that we're putting in place actually have had a positive return. We measure everything, and it comes out of that sense of paranoia.
Sanjay has had his challenges. However, there is no dispute that success has finally caught up with him. We asked when he realized he had finally made it.
Actually, I had a definition for success very early on that was specific. And going back to the idea of you have a picture of a boat in your mind, and that's what's driving you to success. This particular goal wasn't what was driving me, but it was my milestone, so that when I got it, I knew I was successful. And that was, I had flown business class once because my company had flown me overseas for a conference. I loved it. Business class is amazing but it makes no sense to pay for it as an individual. I wanted to be able to pay for business class when I flew places. That was it. And so when I took my first business class flight to visit my relatives back in India, it's like, wow, this is nice. I guess I've made it now.
With all that creativity simmering at Fusenet, we figured Sanjay had something new and exciting to share with us.
FusePay, our new billing software system, is a fundamentally different type of software for any kind of a startup enterprise. We think that this thing is going to be massive. It's going to be 100 times the size of anything we've done so far. It's going to change the face of e-commerce the way PayPal did, but in the standard credit card processing world. It's going to be beautiful.